Hello, and welcome to another 8-minute demo. Today we're going to be talking about data manipulation functions within OIS. My name is Charles Joy. I'm a Senior Business Development Manager at Microsoft. Today we're going to go through a couple examples of the data manipulation functions that are built into OIS. One of the first things you should realize about these data manipulation functions is that there's information on them built in within the help. So if we go to the help and search for data manipulation, you'll see that we get some results back, one being the data manipulation functions topic, and then you can read through the various functions, and each comes with an example and how you can use it and what the parameters are and things like that. So I just want to let you know. And of course, if you don't know how to get to the help, or if you've never used the help before, you could simply go to help and search, and then go ahead and search for data manipulation. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we're going to walk through some examples. For the first example, I'm just going to do something very simple, some text manipulation. Well, that's all this is basic text manipulation. You just got to get used to the syntax. So what I've done here is created a variable, and I just called it any string variable because it doesn't matter, and I put the word Mississippi in there. So I'm going to use that as part of my example in here, mostly because it has repeating letters, but and it's pretty easy to spell. So I'm going to go ahead and add a send platform event out here, and I'm going to use that variable in the send platform event. So I'm going to put, this is going to be our control text, so we can see what the difference is, and I'm just going to subscribe to that variable. And then we're going to start doing some data manipulation functions on that. First one's very easy. Upper. And I'll show you this in a second, the syntax for the data manipulation functions. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the results of this in the testing console, and then I'll come back to the syntax. I don't even really have to run this, I just have to click on it. And you can see that the design time properties down here, and then if I hit step over, we'll see what the result was here. So you can see that upper made everything uppercase. Pretty self-explanatory. So let's take a look at what the syntax was for that, and I'll open up Notepad and make it bigger for that. Open Notepad, and there is a left square bracket, the function name, open parentheses, whatever parameters that you would put in here, close parenthesis, and close square bracket. Now the parameters, of course, could be many or a few, like the upper. And some of them need single quotes. Some of them don't, depending on what kind of data we're talking about. But in general, let's review again. It's left square bracket, function, parameters, separated by a comma with single quotes around some of them, end parenthesis, and square bracket. Alright, let's take a look at some other string manipulation functions. Alright, we'll use that same object. We can actually copy, paste, and let's do a mid. A lot of these functions you'll be familiar with from Excel or VB. They may have different names, but they do very similar things. So the first thing we need for mid, the string, and then we need the start, so we'll do 1, and the length, so we'll do 4. So we'll grab the first 4 characters of the word that's in that variable, which happens to be Mississippi. Again, that's left hard bracket, function, open paren, parameters, close paren, close hard bracket. Let's take a look. Hit step over, and you can see that we have our upper one and then our mid one where we're grabbing the first 4 characters. Let's take a look at some more. So let's take a look at left. You'll notice a very interesting similarity between left and how I used mid there. And you could copy and paste or do whatever you want here, but I'm mixing it up. The length of text we want to take from the left, so let's grab 4 to be consistent with the last one. Let's take a look at that. You can see they did the same thing. So keep in mind that some of these functions can be used for similar things. You'll want to use the one that's best for you. Now, mid is most often used, like substring, to find parts of a string that don't start at 1 and end at 4. They're more dynamic, so you might start at 5 and end at 9 or something like that. Or you might pass in another function and nest them. We'll get to that later on. So let's change that mid up so we can see a difference. Alright, so we'll go in here and change this to start at 4 with a length of 6. So we'll start at that 4th character and we'll go for 6 characters. So hit finish, step over. Now we can see we started at the 4th letter, this S here, and went to 6 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see here we can use these for lots of different things. Let's keep digging. Alright, so let's do an easy one again. Copy that. And we just want the length. So I'm going to just change this up, len, and we'll get the length of the entire string. You can see it's 11 characters long, as you would expect. So you might wonder, why would I want these kinds of numbers? Well, we'll get to that when we get to nesting. So let's do another one that's often involved in nesting and with grabbing specific text. So we'll do an instra. So for that we need 2 parameters. We'll grab this one, it happens to have 2 parameters. And we'll change the function to instra, INSTR. And we need the text, and then what text we're looking for. Let's do ISS. So it's going to find the first occurrence of ISS in the word Mississippi. And it'll give us an index number. And you can see, and as we know, the first occurrence is ISS is right at the front, and that starts at character 2. Alright, so now we're going to use these 2 numbers, length and the instra, to grab the characters from the instra by using some nesting. And for this, I'm actually going to expand on here so we can get a little more space, and then I will zoom in so you can get a better idea because it is kind of small. Everything to this point has been pretty easy though. And we're going to start over with new text. I'm not going to copy and paste to possibly confuse the issue. So hard bracket, and then what we want to do is use the mid function, since that's the overarching function, mid. For normal mid usage, we put the string that we're searching, and then the starting number, and then the length. Let's go ahead and put the string, and then the starting number, which we wanted that to be the instra. So that I will copy and paste. And what I'm going to do is copy just the function and its parens, but not the hard bracket. For these functions, you only need the hard bracket on the outermost part of the function. So now we have the function, the first parameter, and the second parameter is a nested function. And then we need how far do we want to go out. We want to be specific, and we want to nest. So we're going to actually use the length to see how long we're going to make that string. We could hard code the number, say we want it to be 7, but let's use some more nested functions. We have the length, which is good, but we need to subtract it. We can't just hard code subtractions in here. So we're going to use another function here, and that is the diff function, which will get the difference, open paren, and we're going to take the length. I'm just going to copy that, comma, and then what are we going to subtract from that length? And this is where we'll put a hard coded number just to save on space here. We'll put a 4 in there. So that'll be 11 minus 4, which will be 7 characters, another end paren, and a hard bracket. So I'm going to run this, and then we'll come back and look at the syntax. Alright, cool. So if we can see here, we've started at the second letter, which is the I, the first I, and then we've gone 7 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that was based on this function here. So let me zoom in on that so you can see it all. There we go. We're going to be looking at the syntax here. And it looks like it just fits. So we have the overarching function mid and open paren, and then this parenthesis over here is the end of that, and of course we have the hard brackets on either side. The first parameter is this any string example, which has the word Mississippi in it. The second parameter, which is after the comma, is the starting, which we used an inster here. And then the third parameter is another nested function where we're taking the difference. This is the third parameter, and then within that parameter we have a nested function. We have diff, and then we're using length, and then of course that one had another parameter in it too. So all told, we have mid, instra, diff, and length all in one in various nestings. But it's the same kind of functionality for other data manipulation functions in Excel or anything that you may be used to using these sorts of functions. So in this one set of functions, we're getting specific text out of the middle of a string by passing in dynamic values based on other functions. Now, yes, we did hard code some stuff like the ISS and the number 4, but you can variabilize those things, or you can have those things calculated as well. I just wanted to, well, obviously it just fit on the zoom space here, so I guess that worked out. I also wanted to mention that along with being in the built-in help for Opalis, help for data manipulation functions is also on the internet. So if we go ahead and open it up, and I'm just going to paste this URL, I'll put this in the blog posting. It's on the TechNet library for OIS. We have the data manipulation functions, and you can see all that same data. So if you have an internet connection, you can browse the various options for the functions that we've used. Alright, so up to this point we've done mostly string, and we did a little bit of with that diff, we did some math there. I want to show you a workaround that I use when I need to promote from string to integer for some specific functions that may need it, similar to what we've done here. So for that, I'll use a different object in a different example. Alright, so what we want to do here is grab a query database object. I'm just going to give it a simple connection to my local machine and the Opalis database. I'm not going to actually connect to any tables. I'm just going to use the SQL query language. So we know if we do select 1 and test that, we can get a numerical return value of 1 here. But we've typed the number 1. SQL knows that's a number character. So if we want text, we put single quotes around it, right? And of course it's treated as text in the results. See, full line of string is 1. So what if we had the number 1 coming in from a previous object, or hard-coded as a string, but we wanted to promote that to an actual number? Well, we can use the sum function, take that 1, wherever it's coming from, hard-coded or otherwise, and add it to 0. You can see here, I've taken the sum function, put a number in there, and add it to 0. Now that 1 could be a string, or interpret as a string up to this point, but now the result will be an actual numerical 1 when we do the select. And we do not, because we're doing this, we do not have to put single quotes around there. As you can see, numerical return value is 1. Now to show this a little bit better using published data, I'm just going to copy and paste this, link them up, and I want to actually select string value for a number. We'll just do select 42 as a string, and then we're going to pass that data in here, subscribe published data, full line is string, and now we'll be able to see that this is producing a string, this is translating that string into an actual number. Alright, we can see that. And here, you can see it's already translated it to the number 42, and if we take a look at the numerical return value, it is 42. Alright, so that's just one workaround if you need to promote string numbers into actual int numbers for whatever you need to do with those numbers. Since we're on the query database object, I'm going to now show you the most commonly used data manipulation function. It's most often used with the query database object. And for that, I will create a new example policy. And I'm just going to copy one of these guys and paste it in here. This time we actually want to grab data. So I'm going to grab data from the Opalis database. It's going to be select star from caps, which is the integration pack table. It's not important. I just want to show you that we're getting actual data with multiple fields, multiple columns back. So go ahead and hit test. And this is without any data manipulation. You can see we get multiple lines back. And you can see there's semicolons in there. Let me zoom in for you. semicolon between the fields. And I have multiple fields. You can see this one. You can see the third field starting there. What we want to do is be able to extract whatever field we want from this data. So I'm going to open this up a bit and see what might be interesting to pull. Now this is a lot of data, you don't got to worry about it. So let's grab this in this field. For every field, let's grab the actual OIP file. So we got to find what field is that. So I'm going to start at the beginning and count. So the GUID is 1, the name is 2, there's another name in there, 3, the version is 4, and then the DLL is 5, and it looks like field number 6 is the OIP file. So we're going to use that in our data manipulation function. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to pass the data to a send platform event, and we'll just do it right here in the summary. So the data manipulation function we're talking about is the field function. So same syntax, hard bracket, field, open paren, and then the first parameter for this is what are we searching on. So we want to subscribe to the published data for the full line as string, delimited or field separated by a semicolon. And because that's big, we're going to actually expand here. And the second parameter is the delimiter. And we know from the field's name that's going to be a semicolon. So we're going to do single quote, semicolon, single quote after a comma for the second parameter. And the third parameter is what field. And I believe I said the sixth field. So we're going to type 6 in there, end paren, end hard bracket, hit OK, finish, and now we'll take a look. In fact, this is going to return all the values. So let's do a select top 1 here. And we can see already that we pulled, based on the data that we have here, where the sixth field is the Opalis IP IBM TSM 520.OIP is the sixth field. We've asked for the sixth field in our function, and voila, we get the sixth field data, and just the sixth field data. So then we can use that later on down the line. Good news is if you need to parse multiple fields, you can just copy and paste that. So expand that, copy this, and then in here I'll just paste, 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 and we could just change the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll have 1 through 5 in the details and the 6 in the summary. It's just an example anyway. And hit zip over, next, and you can see here I have the first field, second field, third field, fourth field, fifth field, and sixth field. So it's really easy. Once you get one going, you can have just copy and paste that into any of the other needed usage. Maybe in custom start parameters, in the trigger object, you need to parse the data and put it in various fields. You can do that. In fact, why don't I show you that as the final example. So I'll just create a policy here, and this I'll just rename it to target policy. And we'll create a custom start object with 6 parameters. And we won't name them, we'll save some time there. We'll check this guy in just so we can target it. And instead of send platform event, I'm going to lose all that work. I'm going to use the trigger object, connect it up, go to that target policy. You can see there's the parameters. They're not exactly in order, but that's fine. I'm to copy and paste from the previous one, previous object. And it's a matter of lining them up. So it's pretty easy. Start at 1, change this guy to 1. Now that one's 6, so that's fine. And then 2, we just change it. We just match up the numbers, and that way we know everything's going to be in line when it comes out the other side. Now obviously best practice is to name these parameters, but I did want to save time. Alright, finish. And now I'll get rid of this guy, and we can do a test. Now it's not going to actually trigger it, but we'll be able to see the resolved data. So we're just grabbing a whole bunch of data from query database, and we're triggering the policy, and we parse the information out so we could pass the data individually into here. The good news is I could take this top 1 off, and then whatever this data we're selecting, I could simply run this, and it'll query the database for, let's say, 100 records, and it'll trigger that policy with those 100 records, but it'll be parsed by the data manipulation functions that you've set up. So that target policy will get whatever number of policy triggers based on the query, but the data will be passed in, parsed, and ready to be used by that policy. So these have been some examples of how to use the data manipulation functions. Most of them were very simple examples, but the last couple where we're querying database, parsing the fields, passing them in, that's going to be most important. You could also nest the field functions. You could try that out. It works just fine, just like we nested the other functions in the previous example. So I hope this was worthwhile, and good luck with your data manipulation. We certainly appreciate you watching. Thank you.